over 130 residential schools operated in Canada. The first federal residential school began around 1883. The last closed in 1996. These schools, predominantly funded and operated by the Government of Canada and Roman Catholic, Anglican, Methodist, Presbyterian, and United Churches, were created to enforce the adoption of European traditions, languages, and lifestyles by First Nations, Métis, and Inuit children. To better understand the history of these schools and what it meant to Indigenous communities, we invited residential school attendees and their families to share their stories and experiences. For some, these stories are a moment of healing. For others, a chance to talk about the history and the system. All are important to preserve for future generations. My name is Ryan Funk, and with my co-host Lisa Muswagon, we followed these stories for We Stand Together.
That's it. My name is Lisa Muswagon, and I am a Nakota Cree member of the Michigamak Nation, also known as Cross Lake, Manitoba. Welcome to our episode and show of We Stand Together, and I am one of the hosts for the show, and here is my other host.
Hi, my name is Ryan Funk. We Stand Together is a project where we invite residential school survivors to share their stories, an archive for future generations and newcomers to learn about the history of our Indigenous peoples and what they're still going through today. We have Elder Betty Ross with us today. Welcome.
Tansin tu temak. Kinanas komet non muskay gitsigisigat. Utaga pepia, pepitap magiguginiso. Ayo ma atsemune pe atsemustagok. Menoya winigise. Tapoy winugise. Uniso mas naiga ng atiane muten. Niso manemaga gimas kenayawa residential schools kahit sigategyo tagagiga ko tagitag misetoski. Ako ne ba no atiat semuan. Maga tiaga na si mutoten. Kise mi taguan uskay gitsigisigat. Penanas ko mit tagupogo minoya winigise. Tapoy ni petane ko manema putaya tane mutama ko taski. Ninagitiga wena na reconciliation muna may nagaw ni giskeni teni nagawa na reconciliation kahit sigate. Ako ni makatapuin po kung ngane mo tenan muskay gisigisigag. E kusane tu temak kinanas ko metnaw gimamisi metnaw gisagit na kagi ke minagagi ke everything. Good morning all my relations. I'm honored to be here today. I'm Elder Betty Ross from Michigamak Cree Nation. Cross Lake First Nation, and I'll be starting off today talking about the truth as a residential school survivor of two systems, one in my reserve Cross Lake First Nation, Michigamak Cree Nation, Cross Lake, and the other one here in Winnipeg, 621 Academy Road, a Assiniboia residential school. Both schools are not, well, of course, they were demolished years ago, but we still have our stories. And I'm just so honored to be here today. As I start off with the truth. We talk about truth and reconciliation, but I'm here to say that I don't know anything about reconciliation. But I'm busy with the truth now in my journey with my community in Michigamak Cree Nation, and also here in Winnipeg, and wherever I'm called. So I'm going to start off with Sugar Falls. Sugar Falls was launched in 2011. It went viral, out of print, and they're reprinting it again. And now they're translating it into French. Sugar Falls, between Cross Lake and Norway House, were only 50 miles apart. And to get from Cross Lake to Norway House, we have to go through 5 portages, 5 of them. And the strongest one was called Sugar Falls. So this is a story that I will focus on today, this morning. Sugar Falls. This is a story about my custom adopted father who adopted me, when I was about 3-4 years old. You have to read this book in order to follow me. Today it's, like I said, it went viral, and it's used in all the schools from kindergarten to university. And today I'm just so honored to be able to go to the schools whenever I'm called and just present Sugar Falls and the other one, Did You See Us? So we'll start off with Sugar Falls. When I was 5 years old, this is the residential school here, St. Joseph's Residential School, and this is the lake. And over here was my home. And I had to go to this school when I was 5 years old. So I had to go way, way back in order to present the truth. It's all written here. There's some parts that I don't really want to mention because out of respect for my family. But it all starts when I was around 5 years old. I found myself sleeping under overturned canoes, looking for shelter within my community. At that time it was called, I think it's still called Wapak to this day. That was the area. So I was sleeping under an overturned canoe one evening. It was just so cold that it was about the fall, and it was getting so cold. I'm sleeping under this canoe, and just shivering, scared. And all of a sudden, I heard a noise, and right away, I thought to myself, "What if this is some kind of an animal?" So I opened one eye, and finally opened both eyes, and I seen someone lifting the canoe ever so slowly like this. I seen the hands. And when I opened my eyes, I seen a man standing there. He didn't say anything at all. He just picked me up ever so slowly like this and carried me. I don't know where he was carrying me. He didn't say a word, but that human touch, I felt so warm right away. I felt safe right away. And he carried me to his home. And when he arrived at his home, at his place, I seen a woman standing there. That was his wife. And he said to his wife, "Mis kawagawis squares kanitawi giano," meaning, I found this little girl, we're going to raise her up. So in that home, that's where I found love. I seen light there. I felt so safe in there because I knew that I was accepted by this couple that didn't have any children. And that's where I grew up with me and my little brother. And I used to hear children playing, laughing across the lake, but I never looked at it. I don't know why I did that. I used to just keep my head down. But I heard them laughing and just playing around. Instead, close to my home, a few steps, I found my little haven. I call it my little haven. I found a place a rock that was covered with moss, and that's where I used to sit. And then I used to look at the bugs crawling around, and just looking at them. Pretty soon the animals came, like the squirrels, the rabbits. Pretty soon I started looking around the trees, the wind, the sky. And I used to go there almost every day and just be with nature. I felt so safe in there too. And then I started talking to them in Cree. I started talking to the bugs in my language. Like Kistawachigane Egokwet Machi Suek, meaning, oh, you're here to trying to survive, especially the ants. I used to talk to them. And the same with the squirrels and the birds and the butterflies that came. And pretty soon I said, started to accept them for who they are, because they have life. And the trees, I talked to the trees, so I touched the trees, talked to the clouds, the sun, the wind, everything that was around me. That was my little haven. And I found myself clutching Mother Earth like this. I don't know why I did that, but I felt as though some kind of a force that was always trying to get me. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how many times I went there, but I spent a lot of time in my little sanctuary. I call it my sanctuary. And then my father started talking to me about my future. Because one time I woke up and somebody was sitting at the foot of my bed crying, and it was my father crying. And I woke up and I asked him, I put my arm around him and I asked him, "Kaya kono itsimatuan, Papa?" Meaning, why are you crying? And then he says, "Ewa pa taman kimes kanaw," meaning I see your future, and it's going to be dark and dreary where you'll be going for many years. And I didn't understand what he was talking about because I was only 5 years old. And every now and then he kept mentioning about my dark journey. And one morning, he told us that we were going to go on a trip to Norway House to go and visit our relatives, the Osborne family, Helen Betty Osborne. Her and I were very close friends. So we went on a trip. And then he says to me, "Kiwiwa pa din gewan, egutente kiskenoma tan kichegegona." Meaning, I want to show you something. I want to take you somewhere where I'm going to teach you sacred traditional teachings. I didn't know what he was talking about. I was only 5 years old. My mind was still developing. So we went, we camped by this falls one evening. And I was looking at this falls. I was standing with my father. This is it. We were standing together by this falls. And then I looked at that water and I asked my father, meaning, why do they call this Sugar Falls? And at that time, the way our parents taught us is through observation, because there was no books or written material at that time. So it was just through observation and through oral stories. And he says to me, "Kanawa pa tanema nipi." Meaning, look at the water, look at that. Sugay pawish teguma. Tansay sipagi itik. So I'm just look at that water, how that water falls. Not sugar. Well, this is Sugar Falls. Sugay pawish teguma. So I'm standing there. I'm just looking, really scrutinizing how that water was falling. Just looking at it. And all of a sudden, my father says to me, meaning, what do you see? And I told him, tapos ko po sugaw e pagisik. Ni piya niya matapos ko po sugaw e pagisik. And he didn't say anything. And then he motioned me to come and stand beside him, close to the water's edge, right close to the water's edge. And he says, "Kanawa pa to manipi." Tapos ko sa ewi kisiwi inenagog, meaning, look at the water. Look, it looks like it's angry. And I looked at that water, and I went like this. And then he says to me, come closer. Baby chiga pawistawin. Mitunut takisiyak paini pawi, meaning stand beside me closer and observe what I do. Kanawap min gewanoma, editu tamane wigiskinoma tangi sigewan. So I stood closer to him, and he had something in his hand. I don't know what he was holding in his hand, and he went like this. And he said some words in deep Cree I couldn't understand. And then he kept motioning me to observe what he was doing, and all of a sudden he went like this to the waters. Later on, I understood that it was traditional tobacco, kinikinik, offering it to Creator for the water. And then he says to me, "Aw, umisitu tagwa, kanawapato manipike wan wapataman," meaning now stand really close to the edge of the water and bend like this. And what do you see? And I went like this, and I saw my reflection. And then I says to him, "Niwap mission," meaning I see my reflection. And then he says, "How can opatamaka manipi," meaning now look at this water. And I looked at that water, and you know what? It just looked like just pure glass. That's, smooth. That's how I seen my reflection. And then he motioned me to apiagwaski, meaning sit down on Mother Earth. Mitunechisna aski, meaning put your fingers, clutch Mother Earth. And then he says, pasagope, close your eyes. Paskitena, tepagupkitawagaya, meaning open your 7 ears. I don't know what he meant by that, but today I think he was talking about 7 chakras that we have. So I sat there and did what he told me, being very, very, very quiet. I don't know how long I sat there. And then all of a sudden I heard something. Right down, deep down Mother Earth. And then I heard my father saying, "Aw, kekon, meaning, do you hear anything?" And I says, tapis gusto kong mitay, pagi mitay so magaya kaya kitain mitay pagi I said, I don't know how it, but I said to him, "Yeah, I hear something. It's almost like the beating of the heart. Tapos gusto ko mitay. Tapos gusto ko mitay etwe." As a meaning, I think it's my heart, my heartbeat. And then he says to me, "Ute atampek asiniwan." Deep down, Mother Earth, there's lots of rocks out there. Ekuteya wag inniwag. Memekwe wag itawag muna moso kutiwag. Meaning there's people down there that don't have any noses. And what you heard deep down Mother Earth, under the rocks, under the waters, what I sprinkled on the waters, it went down to the depths of the waters. saskisasko ko tuspo kaniwawa. Ako, pagamaski ko. Ewan ni magapet taman. Meaning, these people that are under the rocks, they lit their sacred pipes and they're drumming. En anas kumutsik, kagi pagitnag, kagi pagitnigian. They're grateful for what I put on the waters. But he didn't mention anything about tobacco. And then he proceeded to talk about the whole circle of life. Wapanok east, Sawanok south, Negapenok west, Kiwetnok north. And he said in Cree, I can almost hear him today. Ute wapanok kapeu tsaikiskwet kisigai pisim tatugay gisepao kapeu aste na maguak eukuanima uskip matsiwin ekutesteu ayu ekutesteu. Oh, I can almost hear him. I can hear him. Ayu. I'm sorry I had to take a break because I went back. You know how many years I went back? 70 years. I'm 75 years old. And it's very emotional just to want to talk about this because I could just feel my father's teachings. I can feel his presence to this day. And this is what he was talking about later on, that I needed to share this to the world, the truth of Sugar Falls. So we were at the east direction. He was talking about where the morning sun rises every morning, and there's there's many thousands of indigenous teachings, sacred teachings in the east direction where the sun rises every morning. Egotesteo, iskoteo, ayunigan, uskip matsiwin, ako ani iskoteo, ako ganait sa sistema, ako mitset, kiskinoma meaning in the east direction, you find the sunrise that warms us up every morning, sun rises every morning to light our day. And then the teachings there, new beginnings, the sacred fire, and the sacred tobacco. Plus there's a lot of beautiful teachings in the east direction. Ako magagawit itama tanuskip matsiwin. Ego tegagi utsiag, ego tegagi utsip matsiag. Now that I want to talk about this new beginnings, that's where we were all born from, the east direction. Ego tegastek iskoteo urta pichiasteo, the sacred fires within each and every one of us. Ako ko kanati sistema, ego po kita patsit, umagaisi questa isi amiak tapuin ugta isi amiak. And that sacred tobacco that's there, that medicine, we have to use it for the truth whenever we share. Like tapos ko sa at sanugan like legends, stories. That we have to pass the sacred tobacco. Ako ano te katitu tananaw sawanuk. Any tawigian kipmitat simon. Pinis kita te pasigun. Kipmutan. Asa kita tiyan. Kita te papampatan. Meaning, you get, as a child, you learn to crawl, you learn to walk, and then you all of a sudden you learn to run. And you're running towards the south direction. Sawanuk enatamananima. Sawanukute egute pinesio. Uinagagimi ni guisit ni piniu. Kana tanipi, kestapat tanipi. When we now pinesio gagano patag, kagisimini guisit. Agwekute uskat sag heuteni pawak megots. Agwani mamaskigi kapi putue pausunanyo ake kutani magaste kutagamiski kate kanima maskigi. Meaning, once you reach the south direction, that's where you find a thunderbird. And the thunderbird takes care of the waters. Water is very sacred. Umagay sinagos yan mistay ni pi kitigisken. Mistay ni pi kitayan kinipiwin. Meaning, as human beings, we carry a lot of water, and water is very sacred. And that's where the thunderbird looks after the water. And that's where our youth, our children, stand in the south direction. And at medicine there is sage. Umagagis kinomatan ka wawi yaw matsiwin umagagis kinomatan. I'm teaching you about the great circle of life. So from the south, ute utsisawan ute sa minagita tisip mutan. Kita tinte schooliwin. Kita tigis kinoma gawin kichigay ko na. Asa kita tiyan, kisapewin, kisiskwewin. Kita nagiskawaw. Awiya kawi witsa mat, kawi witsewat, kawi at tibigi mat. Agwani asa kita kusinu tenega penug. Agway ko tenega penug, ay ko tanutin. Kaputa tagaskinyo. Tatugisigaw. Puta tak matsiwin, puta tiguak, egitsis niguak. Agway ko teni magapita, ayu. Kakinogi ni ayawa. Maskusya. Wige mago no ni, ego teni kistastewa ni maskigi. Ako nasa ego te kitakusin. Nega penuk. From the south direction, you walk towards the west direction. You go to school, you find your career, find your partners, and you're ready to settle down. And in the west direction, we find the wind that blows every day, that cleanses the earth, the waters, everything cleanses us. And that's where the wind blows every day. That wind was given that gift to clean up the earth every day. And that's where you stand right now for, I would say, my friends here that are sitting here, they're standing in the west direction. And that's where we find that medicine, sweetgrass. Maga moska kipichin, kiapis kapmutan. You don't stop there. You keep walking. This is this great circle of life. Asa kipe mas kenano, wapanuk, sawanuk, negapenuk. We started from the east, the south, the west. Now we're asa minagita tipmutanano. You don't stop here because this is the circle of life. Asan sigas kita tipmutan, meaning you're walking slowly now because you had an awesome journey. Teutute wapanuk sawanuk negapenuk mistake on ipenagiske now, meaning you've journeyed from your journey from the east, the south, and the west. You carried a lot of heavy stuff. And now we are walking very slowly towards the north direction. Kiwet nuk. Ispigi at nugat tagusnan once you reach the north direction. Ego tagagi tsigapa with wapiskipiskoimish to sky deep. That's where the great white buffalo stands in a north direction. Ako ko kanopa tamisiweski nagagi nagegon umina wapanug sawanug iwetnug winagagi minit kita kanopa tak matsiwin gagi nagegon utaski utemi na ismi ko kami na utaski newaya ko misise. The great white buffalo was given the gift to look after the great circle of life with everything, the east, south, west, and the north, the four directions of mankind. Ako ugik newayak ayawak mi negutang utay sa wapanuk usawaw. He's talking about the four colors. Usawa meaning yellow in the east. Ako utay sawanog migo. And sawanog, in the south it's red, the colors. Ako utay negapenuk chipetago, meaning atit maga pasita kagakitewanik. Some people use the dark color, others navy dark blue, navy blue. Ako ano te negapen ay kiwetnuk egote wapiskaw, meaning white. Ako ko yung tanis kamintan uta kita kanawini taman pitsi kitteik mittoni kitai itsi kanawini taman umanus kagi tsigisigak, meaning where we're standing here today at Sugay Pawistik Sugar Falls, you have to keep these teachings deep within the recesses of your being. Ego ni uga mintan kiskinoma gewina kikawitsikun umagawite kagotagitain, meaning you have to keep all these sacred teachings, traditional teachings, indigenous teachings, deep within the recesses of your being, because they will help you survive the systems. I never knew what he was talking about because I was only 5 years old. I didn't know that he was talking about the residential schools that I was going to go through, 2 of them. And then he said, mitoniga ka kwetsista skotti gawin. Inuguk tapagotti gawin. Meaning, they're going to literally try to crucify you for who you are. And of course, I didn't know what he was talking about, but it was so true. But I went, the trauma after trauma after trauma that I went through this, especially at Sugar Falls. And my father proceeded to talk about so many beautiful teachings. And then he said, Mochi ga tau se puni paniwa. O ininiwishi kiskinoma gevina. Mistaige gon gigimi ni guwisanano, meaning there will never be an end to the traditional teachings, sacred teachings. Because ayu ito mute katip mutan ito kak. There was a little piece of sand there, and he pointed to that sand, and he says, "Kawapa tamanuma negaw." You look at this sand, and he took some sand in his hand. Ewapatnit, meaning he showed me this that sand in his hand. Agwaniniguk emi se tige ininiwishigis kinoma gevina. That's how rich and vibrant indigenous teachings are. When he showed me that sand and he put it back in that place where he got it from. So my father taught me so many beautiful teachings in Sugar Falls. And Sugar Falls is my truth, my story, I had the wonderful opportunity to visit Sugar Falls this past summer. And to be standing there at 70 years of age is so very powerful, so very sacred. It was so surreal. It was emotional. I could feel my father's presence. And I did the same thing when I had kinikinik tobacco in my hand, and I put it on the waters of Sugar Falls. It was very powerful. It was singing. It was talking. Wow. There are no words in the English language to describe it from the bottom of my heart. So Sugar Falls is used in all the schools from kindergarten to university, and it's the truth. And like I mentioned before, Truth and Reconciliation era, I don't know anything about reconciliation. I'm too busy building the foundation of truth within my community, Michigamak Cree Nation, and with the community here in Winnipeg. But it's a very challenging, very beautiful journey, because elder in residence for Sabino School Division, I teach in 3 different schools. And these 2 systems took away my childhood. They took away my teenage years and my young adult years. But in my line of work today, I connect with kindergartens to grade 8, and I'm a child again. And I go to middle years, and I connect with I'm a teenager again, the teenagers. And then I go to Maples Collegiate, I'm a young adult again, because I connect with the high school students. And my father said, kita titatapis yung kupaniga ginagayon. Kwes matsiyan kwes tutamani, kwes kaneni tamani wayawa, kwes kaneni tamani kanatsikis kinoma agewina, kakistigian, kiteik. He says, Kigamas kenu, you'll survive these systems if you honor and respect these traditional teachings that I'm planting within the recesses of your being today. And then he says, Magagigati wanikiskisin, kigawanisinin, iniguk, ewan tipiskak, kipmutewin. But you will forget, you will get lost because of the darkness of your journey. Kaya kikakota kigawiyan, ewa po ko kay kiskisiyan, kikakisiwasan, kikakisiwenitin, meaning you go back to your journey and you're going to be very angry for what happened to you. Chigema, ewa siwiyan, meaning you're just a child. Kikati mami no gat sigemon, kegon magagiusi matsiane gutta, kegon gagiusi mutiane gutta, kegon gagiusi gakota gigawian. Agapugo, square siwian, meaning you're going to ask yourself many questions. Why? Why did you have to suffer? And you'll ask yourself, why am I suffering? Because I'm only a child. What did I ever do? Kegon nangitutin, what did I do? Did I ever do anything wrong? Kegon maugawiyan, why? The beatings, atrocities. Those are the questions that I will ask myself. And Agwani gigati wani isun at sinaw, meaning you lose who you are for a while. Maga, kigati kiskisin, kigati petenu kiskino magewina. Kagina katamatan suga ipawistibu. But you will bounce back. You will start thinking about Sugar Falls, the teachings that I planted within the recesses of your being. And of course, I didn't understand what he was talking about when I was only 5 years old. So I went to two systems, and in the early 60s, and there's so many beautiful stories here when we used to go and visit our relatives in Norway House, the Osborne family. I spent a lot of time with my relative, Helen Betty Osborne. And we used to sit by the rocks again, by the water. Oh, we just loved the water. And we should tell each other stories, like, and ask each other questions. Like one time she asked me, what do you want to be? What do you want to do after, going to school? And I used to say to her, meaning, I don't know, but maybe I want to help my people. And I asked her, Kinamaga, well, what do you want to do? And she said, meaning she wanted to be a nurse or an educator. And that we spent a lot of precious time when I lost her in 1971. And that's when I had my first child. So anyway, there's so many stories in here, and it's geared towards the younger generation. I left each of these to my generations, and I just love going to schools and the truth about what happened to us. To me especially, I can't talk about anybody else's journey but Betty's journey.
Multicultural is located on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the national homeland of the Red River Métis.